It's on right now. It's on, it's on, it's on. Bismillah. Yeah, this one for you. Oh, that's pretty good. Fun piece. Because this guy. Bismillah, come on, open. What? On here, bro. Alright. Yeah, not part of world somewhere. Yeah, the world today, so then. No, you have to go. You have to go. Okay, is it photo chat? Let's see what is on here. Alright, go with it. I mean, I'm going to mess with it. But if you don't come so with that the I know this one all now, so I can't see how easy you can win this one. Yeah, slow. Seriously. Oh, that will happen there. Please see. Let me check. Check it. So it should. Oh, what trouble is this, man? Finally, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. 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 Anytime he was there, is no way. Alright. Alright. I think last time, okay, yeah, we were basically on this part here. Well, we started on moment, we passed here actually. If it is just one, right? Yes. Right? Well, of course, there were much more conquests in the Eastern Roman Empire, right? And whatnot. You know, many. And you see the territory here is from what you would call the region of Khorasan in Iran to Ifriqiya in Tunisia, right? So basically, he extended the empire a little bit more. And as I mentioned, it's because of the fact that it didn't have as much fitness. So I'm going to start now. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man ittaba al-huda thumma amma ba'd. So we're going into Muawiyah's administration. All right? Now, the other Khulafa had different fists as well. Okay? like Omar, like Abu Bakr, like Uthman, etc. But Muawiyah, he established some things that he was prominent in. So the first thing is that he was the first to establish a postal route for the Muslim government. Okay? So he was the first one to ever do that. The second thing is that he established government departments for correspondence and correspondence and chancellery. So you had that as well. He had it more organized, in other words, then. And I that they entered into the Persian Empire and they entered into the Eastern Roman Empire. So they saw how things were basically run in these particular empires, because you have to remember the Arabs were not accustomed to, running a government, running an empire. The Arabs were a bunch of separate tribes in Arabia, and the Prophet ﷺ under Islam united them. So now they go into the wider world, they have to get a little bit more organized. And this is something that is a feature of empire. It's a feature of empire. As the empire expands more and more, the more it has to adapt and get organized. So it's not is coming with some type of bid'ah, some kind of innovation or anything, because this is a worldly matter, not a matter of ibadah. So is that he had to get more organized in terms of his emissaries, in terms of correspondences from foreign entities, etc., like that. And that's just a feature of how empires grow and how they establish themselves more. But the Muslim empire, right, for many years it was very centralized. So you had a capital and you had basically one ruler, not several vassals, but you had basically one ruler. Okay? And next thing is that he established personal guards, because there's an assassination attempt on him. So obviously he would establish guards, and also the fact that if you really look at it, Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and Umar, all of them were assassinated. So he established personal guards and select troops and reserve areas within the masjid. Right? So it's not that he was aloof or anything like that. He was very humble, but what happened is that he needed security, because anybody could kill him at any time. You had the Khawarij, and just generally you had mischief makers who wanted to see the Muslims fall. So it's very important. So for example, you would see in the Haramain, for example, or other places as well, you would see that they have guards in front of the Imam, right? For example, or guards in front of the prince or wherever else. Why? Because sometimes in the Haramain, a few times they try to assassinate the Imams, what it is that they were given the khutbah. Right? So these kind of things happen. So you always have to have people in readiness to make sure that these things don't happen. Okay? Right. And also, his name was the first name of a caliph to appear on coins, inscriptions, and documents. Now, the coins were taken from the Byzantine Empire, to tell you the truth. So sometimes when you see his name on the coin, you would see like a cross in the back of the thing, right? But they would try to scratch off the cross, of course, right? But basically, they were taking Byzantine coins and basically putting his name on it, right? That's basically what they did. And inscriptions and documents as well. So you see, Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he set a precedent for the ones to come after him in terms of how to organize a particular empire. And this is extremely important, because you would see that the other empires to come, whether the Umayyads continuing, whether it was the Abbasids, and whatever else came out, the Abbasids like the Mamluks and then the Ottoman Empire, etc., you would find that they would be extremely organized when it is that they dealing with these government matters. And a next thing to note as well is that at times they would put Christians in administration at times because they knew how to run the place. And also they would put people who were freed slaves in administration as well. Why? Because they knew exactly how to run an empire. They knew exactly what to do. Okay? As I said, the Arabs, before that time, they didn't necessarily, or they didn't really run an empire that was cohesive. It was more the village chief, and basically with that village chief, everybody just fighting everybody kind of way. But with this now, he had to be, he had to have a kind of evolution or development in terms of these circumstances because now they were running a big empire. So they had to adapt in these particular matters. Right, so the next thing, other events. Now these events are pivotal in terms of what would happen next, right? These events would be very, very pivotal in terms of what will happen next. Because the things that happen in Iraq with radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the things that happen with Abdullah ibn Zubair as well, the coming of the likes of Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, and the coming of the Abbasid Empire. This has to do with what happens here next, okay? As I mentioned before, you had the fitna during the time of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, where it is that Abdullah ibn Sabah was spreading all kind of rumors about Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And as I said, Uthman was from Banu Umayyah, and Muawiyah was from Banu Umayyah as well. So when it is that Ali took the rulership, as I mentioned before, Muawiyah did not give bay'ah to him because he wanted that the killers of Uthman be pursued first before he gave bay'ah to him. And Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu had another idea. So now you have the start of kingship, of successive kingship in the Islamic Empire. So yes, it is called a caliphate because they rule all the Muslims, but no, it's not a caliphate in reality. Because as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the caliphate is for 30 years. And it ended with Hassan radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So in a sense, it's a caliphate. In a sense, because it rules the whole Muslim world, but at the same time, it's not a caliphate because now the succession plan was from father to son, continued even until now in most Muslim countries. Right? Even if it is that what they would call the democratic Muslim countries, some of them it goes from father to son. Well, with few exceptions, of course, right? But this is what started it all, basically, right? So the first thing that Muawiyah did, and Muawiyah was, at that point, he was kind of old. He was like about 76, 77 years old. And he was, at the point of where it is that he was getting very sick and he was ailing. So he knew he was going to die in that possibility. So what happens is that he makes the people of Sham, who are, his adherents, in other words, then, pledge allegiance to Yazid, radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Well, not radiallahu anhu, sorry, he's not Sahabi. They made him pledge allegiance to Yazid ibn Muawiyah. Okay? Yazid is the son of Muawiyah. No other Khalifa put their son to be the Khalifa. Neither Abu Bakr, neither Umar, neither Uthman, neither Ali. Now, what Muawiyah possibly was seeing in Yazid is that he was very, very intelligent, very strategic, and he had all the good qualities to be a Muslim ruler. And the other people saw it as a type of a front that, look, that you're supposed to have shura regarding these matters, as we had before, right? So we're supposed to have shura, not just supposed to select your family member, okay? Now, as we know, in the case of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he was selected, no, in the case of Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, sorry, he was selected by Abu Bakr to be the next Khalifa. So in this case, Muawiyah selected his son to be the next Khalifa, but it's not the best thing because it's better to have Shura. So this caused a little bit of problem between the Muslims. They saw this as a affront to what the Prophet ﷺ established, some of them. So this was the first time a Khalifa's son was elected during the life of the present Caliph. So he was alive. So he made him like what you call now the Wali al-Ahd. The Wali al-Ahd, like how Muhammad ibn Salman is to Salman ibn Abdul Aziz. Salman ibn Abdul Aziz is the king of Saudi Arabia. Muhammad ibn Salman is not really the king. He is the Wali al-Ahd. Meaning that, in other words, when it is that the king dies, he basically takes his place. Right? So he's the first one to ever do that. So while he was still alive, but he was Adam, but while he was still alive, he basically appointed his son as his successor. But as for Abu Bakr, he appointed Umar as a successor on his deathbed. He was dying. Right? But in this case, he was still living. He appointed him as his Wali al-Ahd. Right? So you had an issue. Marwan, and his name would appear later on. You will see his name appear, especially in the fitna of Ibn Zubayr. Right? Marwan was given the responsibility to tell some of the companions to pledge allegiance to Yazid. Okay? So go to and tell them, look, give bay'ah to Yazid, etc., like that. So the people of Sham gave it, but they had a problem. Like the people of Iraq were calling for Hussein to be the Khalifa. Right? So not everybody gave bay'ah, not everybody pledged allegiance to Yazid as yet. So you had the people of Iraq, they wanted Hussein. Because in reality, Hassan, he gave up the Khilafah for a while. And when it is that Muawiyah died, he would be the Khalifa after Muawiyah. But he died before Muawiyah died. So now you have a complicated matter now. And so the people thought in Iraq that Hussein was most deserving of the Khilafah. But Hussein, as you would see in the story of Karbala, several times he refused. He said he don't want to be no Khalifa. Right? And they kept on begging him and begging him and begging him until that particular event happened and he was martyred, radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Right? So Hussein ibn Ali didn't make any bay'ah. He didn't make any pledge of allegiance. So the people of Iraq to be Caliph, and Abdullah ibn Zubair didn't give allegiance either. Right? He didn't give allegiance either. And he basically ruled Makkah. And as you see the story with Yazid, they fought Abdullah Zubair by the Kaaba, they used catapults and all this kind of stuff like that. And during that time, Yazid ibn Muawiyah, he ended up dying. Thereafter was Muawiyah ibn Yazid ibn Muawiyah. So there are two Muawiyahs, Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, and Muawiyah, the son of Yazid. He ruled for a year. And then you had the ruler after, eventually, that led to the death of Abdullah ibn Zubayr radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And just to note, several of the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, by that time they had died. So, as I mentioned, Hassan radiallahu anhu died. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she died as well, I believe in the year 57 of the Hijrah. You had Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who died. Several of the Mukhadrameen, meaning that those who believe in the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, but never met him, so they're not considered as Sahaba, never met him. Like Abu Muslim al-Khawlani, he died. So you had plenty of the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum died during the era of Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Right? So Abdullah ibn Zubayr didn't give him allegiance, and Hussein ibn Ali. Now you're seeing certain masala, and this is why it's important to be very critical when looking at history. You're seeing certain texts that Ibn Umar and Ibn Abbas didn't give allegiance, said all kinds of things, but that's not true. Ibn Kathir, that is the best book in terms of Islamic history. Ibn Kathir in his book Bidayah showed that Ibn Abbas and Ibn Umar both pledged allegiance to Yazid. And they told the people, including Hussein ibn Ali, they told him to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and don't revolt against Yazid ibn Muawiyah. Right? And this was in order to keep the unity of the Muslims and for it not to have any kind of bloodshed. Right? Because, as I said, when it is that certain Sahabas or certain people didn't pledge allegiance to Yazid ibn Muawiyah, again, mischief makers, as we will see in the story of Hussein ibn Ali, they basically took the chance to cause more bloodshed between the Muslims. Right? And that is always the case. Mischief makers always want to see Muslim blood spilled as much as possible. Right? So the idea of most of the Sahabas was that we don't want to see any bloodshed, and they pledged allegiance to Yazid ibn Muawiyah, although it is that many of them were not very pleased with Yazid being the Khalifa or being the ruler of the Muslims. Why? Because you have Sahaba who are alive and who are more fit to be Khalifa. But in order to not cause bloodshed and cause a bunch of confusion, it was better for them to leave it off, right? And you have a bunch of things about Yazid being a drinker and this and that. That's a bunch of fairy tales, right? You have to be careful. You have to be very careful when you look at the different sources. Because you have a person called Al-Waqidi, and he's a known kadhab, he's a known liar. And he said a bunch of craziness about Islamic history. And his statements are all over the place. So you have to be very, very, you don't know who the historian is, and you have to be very, you have to pick out. It's the same thing in West Indian history. If you know that the historian is what they call a negrophobe, don't like Africans, yeah, he go and bring some crazy stuff, right? So it's the same kind of way, basically, right? So the non-allegiance of these Sahaba to Yazid was the cause of the second civil war. As I said, the first civil war was during the time of Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, not during the time of Uthman. During the time of Uthman, it's just that Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu got assassinated. In the time of Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu was the first civil war, and that was finished by the time that Hassan ibn Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he stepped away from the lead of the Muslims. Right? So that was done. But this civil war now was as a result of some of the companions and some others as well not pledging allegiance to Yazid ibn Muawiyah. So that was the second civil war. So we would explore, inshallah, what happened in a place called Harra, right? We would explore that. And we would explore as well what it is that Yazid ibn Muawiyah, he fought, where it is that he also fought, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, and also what happened with Hussein ibn Ali with the Battle of Karbala as well, all right? So you had a bunch of confusion again. As I said, this would lead up eventually to, all these cataclysms would eventually lead up to the coming or the advent of a person or a personality like Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, who with all his brutality and all his evil and all his bloodthistiness, he kind of set everything in order after a while. Allah understand. All right. Okay. So the last thing, inshallah ta'ala, and we'll take questions after this, is that Muawiyah died in the year 60 after the Hijrah, the age of 77. You have to remember, so he died at a relatively older age. All the Khulafa believe that Hassan died at 50 years old. In the case of Abu Bakr, Omar, and Ali, they all died 63 years old. Right? And in the case of Uthman, he died at almost the age of 90 years old. Right? But he died at the age of 77. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with him. So next, inshallah ta'ala, which is next week, inshallah ta'ala, we'll actually go through Yazid, the son of Muawiyah. And, that might take probably, I feel it will take next week, inshallah ta'ala. It'll just be next week alone, inshallah ta'ala. Yazid ibn Muawiyah and Muawiyah ibn Yazid. We'll just take next week, inshallah ta'ala, because Muawiyah didn't spend a very long time, as the Muawiyah ibn Yazid. I'm not talking about Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. Muawiyah ibn Yazid, he spent like a few months making Muslim ruler. Right? So, any questions? Ta'ala. Yeah, who used to fight the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Yazid is his son. Now, Muawiyah, Abu Sufyan, as we know, he became Muslim in the day of the victory, exactly. So him and Muawiyah became Muslim at that time. But Muawiyah became one of the writers of the revolution as well. Because he could have, from before, he was already literate already. So he was one of the persons who actually wrote the Quran as well. Or was involved in it, I should say. But this person, Yazid, is the son of Muawiyah, who was the son of Abu Sufyan. Then after that, you have Muawiyah, the son of Yazid, the son of Muawiyah, the son of Abu Sufyan. Yeah. But that Muawiyah, he was basically a waste of time. You spent like less than a year. Yeah, he was a waste of time. Right? And then you have the others, and Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, the likes of them. And although Hajjaj ibn Yusuf was just the governor of Iraq, he wasn't the Caliph, he was not one of the Khulafa, but he was the governor of Iraq, and he kind of overshadowed that whole era because I believe it was the era of Marwan ibn Abdul Malik, because of how bloodthirsty and how brutal he was in terms of his reign. As I mentioned before here, he said that if I tell people to come out on the side of the masjid and they go on the other side of killing all of them, yeah, that's the kind of person he was. That kind of brutality, Yeah. 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 Yeah, well, I mean, the whole thing that, is important to always seek, Muslim unity at the end of the day. It mightn't have what you call a Khalifa. It mightn't have that right now. But what you can have is that Muslim states unite together and have common cause. Like whether it's Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Emirates, Egypt, etc., that they unite for one common cause. Syria now, that they unite for one common cause, and they serve as a kind of a strength in other words now. So you mightn't have a one ruler, like a central ruler and rules them. But if you have all the pockets working together, how that is, that is acceptable. That would suffice for now until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy and that we get a Khalifa who rules over the Muslims and thing. You understand? So that is, Allah knows best that, what happened in Syria is a good indication that, the Muslims are moving forward. So inshallah ta'ala, the road towards that, maybe the first step would be just to get all the Muslim countries united towards common cause, towards, how to say, protecting the Muslims, towards certain things. Yeah, right? And then after that, possibly, inshallah ta'ala, you can have the Khilafah again, inshallah ta'ala. But practical steps have to be taken. As for Iran, it's not a Muslim country. I say it plainly. Once you're worshiping graves, kissing the Sahaba, all these different things, I believe in that that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can now conceive of things in other words. Like these kind of beliefs that they have, according to the ulama, according to the scholars of Ahlul Sunnah, that are not in the first place. Right? So they are for the Shia, right? As Imam al-Qahtani, he said, يعني that إن الروافد شر من وطئ الحصى, that the Rawafid are from the worst of humans who have walked on stones. If you really look at it, they have always been useful idiots to undermine the Ummah. Whether it's with the Abbasid Empire, with Ma'ayyad al-Din al-Aqami and Nasir al-Din Matusi, or whether it was during the Ottoman Empire, right? Or whether it is even, I would say, even now to an extent, because at the same time you're helping Gaza, but at the same time you're bombing Ahlul Sunnah in Yemen, same time you're trying to bomb the Kaaba, the Houthis are speaking about, same time you're killing Ahlul Sunnah in Lebanon, same time you're killing Ahlul Sunnah in Iraq, as the case of Heshta Sha'bi, same time you're killing Ahlul Sunnah in Syria. I mean, come on. You understand? So when you say Muslim, unless Iran becomes a Muslim country, we are excluding Iran from that. There's a sectarianism, but there's been real. But there's been very. Because when you look at their beliefs in their books, it's like this has nothing to do with Islam whatsoever, believing that we wanted that the Quran is what is there with us, and the other tutors with their imam in some cave and all kind of nonsense. And I actually went on their websites and read in their books, and it's according to one scholar, from Egypt, he said, Kalam wahish awi, is evil, barbaric speech about the Sahaba, about the Quran, about everything. Madness. Ma'am? Right. Any other questions? Grandson, and then you had Marwan ibn Abdul. You had a good few. The best one after Muawiyah would have been Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. They call Umar ibn Abdul Aziz like the fifth caliph, because he was so righteous, he was extremely pious, he was extremely on the Sunnah, and one thing that he did, he basically started, I shouldn't say use the word started, because it started before him, but he basically systemized the writing of the Sunnah. Because he told Imam Zuhri that I'm afraid that ilm would go away. So he told them to tell the muhaddithin to write down, because everybody just used to memorize. But remember, some of the Sahaba was still alive, right? So it was like this, right? And people kind of make all kinds of accusations regarding the ahadith of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But if you really look at it, it's kind of ridiculous, okay? So I'll give you an example like this. Say my grandmother or my great-grandmother lived, And I have memories of my grandmother or my great grandmother was telling me certain things and whatnot like that, right? And I pass it on to my son or my grandson, according to the age and thing. And that son or grandson pass it, you want John to accept them, they're not happening either. You understand? They're not happening. And he knows they're not happening. But he just doing that, he just saying a bunch of crap to please, he does not, to please, to make it seem, I would tell you, but chop a yield agenda. He always does that. You know, because first he will call this guy from North Korea, what's his name? Kim Jong-un. You call him Rocket Man and say that he have a death wish, and next thing you know, he hold it out to jump it over the South Korean border, like if he is pitching marbles since staying primary school. You understand? So Trump is a kind of volatile figure, unpredictable. So it's only when it is that you see what he really does, then because he said several times also he don't trust Netanyahu at all. You know, so one day we're going to kill Qasem Soleimani in Iran. He said Netanyahu, you this, and Netanyahu tried to duck out. He said, well, okay, well, you to be the case. Matter. Huh? I mean, really and truly, I see that right now, or they run towards that ceasefire, or they violating it in many ways right now, which usual Jewish stuff, they usually violate ceasefires and because they usually they violate treaties and stuff like that. That's known for them, right? Because the fact that they had to have a ceasefire to release hostages and to stop certain things going on, that is how to say, a move in a positive direction, inshallah ta'ala. And hopefully, I'm saying hopefully that this whole situation, I just hoping that Netanyahu gets assassinated, which inshallah ta'ala could happen, right? I just hope he gets assassinated because I think everybody is kind of waiting on him to just leave because nobody in Israel likes him. Everybody wants him out. He's under corruption trial right now, and he needs war. He needs war to continue being there. That is what he needs, right? But inshallah, hopefully, if he gets removed from this earth, hopefully, I'm not going to be, of course, YouTube, I'm not saying that, but I really want to do it, so I'm not saying that. There's hope that he goes away. Whether he retires in Florida, whether he gets assassinated, whatever, it don't matter. But at the end of the day, that he is a brutal killer and he is only there for himself. In the case of Netanyahu, he's only there to safeguard his political position at the end of the day. And it's not sustainable. I think Trump knows for a fact that Netanyahu would not leave in any case soon. His time going, his clock ticking. His clock ticking. So. Yeah. True. I mean, it could be worse, but at the same time, I think that because we have to look at the fact that you have certain financiers who want certain things for the business, and for them to really go against these financiers would be a very difficult task. Meaning that they want to see a prosperous Middle East, they want to make money from it. You know, and they want to continue war, and as you see what happening with Ukraine right now. So Europe going to be the war zone where it is that they send the weapons and stuff like that. But like, exactly. But it don't really make sense for them to be spending millions of dollars on war in the Middle East when it is that at the end of the day, you're not getting what you want from it. So you have to find another way. Because even though it is that, for example, in the case of Netanyahu, he fought Hamas, for example. He said, we got rid of them. Everybody hostages, they say thousands of them in the street. It's like, okay. But you got rid of them? No, you don't get rid of them. They're still there. You understand? So it's like he just fighting wars with nuclear kind of goal whatsoever. So he time kind of ticking. Just like Bashar al-Assad. His time was up. His time will be up soon, inshallah ta'ala. You know? Ajil and Gaira Ajil. Right? Or Ajil and Gaira Ajil, sorry. Right? Soon, sooner than later, inshallah ta'ala. You know, but as I said, unless a state is looking throughout, and it's obvious that Netanyahu and his band of thugs don't have the capability, either strategic or intellectual capability to do that in the first place, even though they had American aid for Biden, bombs, guns, etc. like that. I think that now people are set up for him. Because, okay, so you're going to get Hamas, Hamas still there. All them come with the greed to the shiesties, and I mean, it's a waste of time.